proton therapy is a way of treating cancer with ionizing radiation. So similar to your traditional radiotherapy, which uses X-rays to essentially transfer energy to a tumor cell to cause it to die and eradicate a tumor. So whereas traditional X-rays, which use photons, proton therapy, which as its name suggests, uses protons. And the main benefit we get out of this is that while X-rays sort of spread out dose throughout the body, protons deliver a much more localized dose. And this allows you to spare healthy tissue so that you minimize the tissue the dose that's delivered to healthy tissue, but maximize the dose that's given to the tumor itself. And then you sort of reduce things like complications after treatment, side effects, etc. Proton therapy wasn't something that I knew I wanted to do from the outset. It was something that I, again, sort of stumbled into. And it kind of happened where in my third year Java course, the person who was teaching that, who is now my supervisor, is the guy who heads the proton therapy group here at UCL. And I had my guitar in the lesson because I had a rehearsal afterwards. So I was just carrying my guitar in, and he also plays the guitar, and we sort of got talking about that. And then he advertised, his master's project, and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. I'll sign up. But it was that first initial conversation on, this commonality between us that really kind of steered me onto proton therapy, and now I'm doing that for my PhD, and I love it. It's a very interesting subject, and it's useful to society, which is something that I always want to be doing. My research project is designing a detector that's used in the proton therapy treatment process. So while the benefit of proton therapy is that you can deliver a very localized dose to a very specific region in the body, this adds extra complexity because then you really need to know where you're delivering that dose. Because if you miss, then it can be quite catastrophic for a patient. And so there are many ways in which this sort of uncertainty about where your treatment is being delivered is minimized. But a big parameter in this is the proton range. So how far the proton will penetrate into the body before it comes to a stop. So this is a very important parameter because remember, most of the dose is delivered at the end of the proton path. So you need to measure this parameter really well, and typically you need to do it to sub-millimeter precision. So part of at least on the technical side of things, there is a process called daily quality assurance, where before you start treating patients in a day, your medical physicist will measure the range of protons in water for a selection of their energies in their library. This is just to ensure that things are behaving the way that they expect it to. They measure the range in water because water is a pretty good approximation for the human tissue. And the problem is that the way that this is done is either pretty laborious, time-consuming, or fast but not particularly accurate. And what we're doing is designing a detector that can deliver these measurements both quickly and accurately. And so that's ostensibly my project. A typical day, and it's not too dissimilar to a lot of modern sort of scientific things, it's a lot of programming. So I would either be writing code to analyze data, to some of the hardware code that goes into our front-end electronics, or writing code to simulate our detector. For me, the tasks just involve anything that needs to be done to get this detector into the clinic, which is good because it gives me a flavor of a lot of different aspects of particle physics. So on a day-to-day, there's a lot of computer-based work, but there are days that you do a lot more hardware-oriented things. So either putting the detector together, maybe doing some tests with some LEDs, things like that. or doing a beam test on every so often. That's more of a rare occurrence, of course. It sort of varies quite a bit, but it's a nice breadth of knowledge that I have to learn, which means that there are several learning curves here and there, but I do like this bit of it because it's very localized. It's just, at the moment, it's just me and my supervisor. We'll get more people in eventually, but it's nice to just be building something and see it work, hopefully.